Hey everyone, my name is Tony, and today I want to talk about some issues that I saw when I was growing up with public school, as well as being a gifted kid in public school. For my background, I'm just terraforming my island right now, so I can kind of build it up the way that I want it. So, should be a little peaceful for the topic, I guess. With that being said, let's jump straight into it. First, let's start off with just a little bit of context. I was in the gifted program. I tested in the second grade, and I stayed there through the 10th grade when I basically just stopped showing up. And when I refer to gifted program, I don't mean special needs. I mean kids who are more advanced than their peers at their age. The first issue to really look at is probably the public schools themselves. I remember being in the 12th grade, my senior year, and there were kids who couldn't do basic math that I learned in middle school. I'm talking basic algebra they couldn't do, and they were a senior in high school and they did graduate. And that just means that there's something fundamentally broken when our kids can't do basic algebra. To continue talking about public schools, let's move on to the teachers themselves. Now, I had some pretty decent teachers for most of my school career, I guess if you want to call it that. But then I had some who should not have been there. Teachers who had been there for 10, 15 years, somewhere around there. They've got their seniority, their tenure, and they just didn't care. They didn't care about the kids, they didn't care about teaching, and they shouldn't have been there. But it just seems really hard to get rid of a teacher once they've been there a while. And I think the last thing I want to touch on with just public schools in general is they don't really teach you things that are valuable. I remember learning about matrices in the 11th grade. I've never once used that in my life. You learn so many different things that you will likely never use unless you go into very specialized fields. And that just seems like, honestly, just a waste of time. I would have much rather have ended school 2, 3 years early and learned an actual skill, or maybe started going to a college and just trying out different things, seeing what I like, seeing what I want to do, instead of wasting time in high school learning things that I will never use a day in my life. Now I want to circle back to the issue of the gifted kid in a public school. Like I said, I was in public school K through 12. I was in the gifted program from second grade to 10th grade, and it really set me up for failure. And just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit more, I was never challenged. The gifted program challenged me a little bit. I learned a lot while I attended it, but public school itself never challenged me. I remember in the ninth grade I had biology. I showed up once a week. I did all my work on a Friday, made up all quizzes, whatever I missed, and I passed class. My senior year, I had a really cool economics teacher, super nice guy, but I never went to his class on a Friday. And I made up the work on the Monday. He knew because I actually talked to him at the end of the year. He's like, "Yeah, I noticed that you never show up on a Friday." Um, and I didn't even do my final because I was like, I already have 100 in your class. It's only worth 10%. And he gave me an A on my final anyway because he's like, well, if you'd have done it, it would have been good. He's a super cool teacher. But that's my point. I can sleep my way through public school. I was never challenged. And because I was never challenged, when I got out of high school, I went to college the first time and I was actually challenged and I didn't know how to handle it. I had never been challenged before. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't have the skills I needed when I come across a difficult task and how to overcome it. So because of this, it really set me behind. I only attended college for about a year and then I ended up dropping out. I worked some dead end jobs. It took me several years to finally just get my head on straight, get my life together, and learn how to overcome challenges because I had never learned that growing up. Now, this video isn't supposed to be all about me. I'm just trying to give you some context, give you some background because I have some hands on experience with this. I want to come up with solutions for kids in public school and gifted kids in public school. Now, obviously, the solution is not spend more money. We keep spending more and more money, and our test scores are going down, so throwing money at the problem is not fixing it. In the current system that we have, I mean, I would say if you can, don't put your kids in public school. Get them in a charter school, magnet school, private school if you can afford it, to get a tutor, homeschool them. I promise you, you would be amazed as to how much more you can teach and how much more your kids can learn if you just sit down with them for an hour a day versus them sitting in school for 6 hours a day and not paying attention for 5 hours and 55 minutes of that. Now, the only other solution that I can think of is the one that's already been proposed, which is to have a voucher that's attached to the kid. So wherever the kid goes, that's where the money goes. This would allow schools to compete with one another, to try to get the best teachers, to try to have the best environment, make sure that the test scores are always going up. And that would actually motivate them to get rid of bad teachers. Anyway, I think that pretty much wraps up this video, kind of airing my grievances about public schools and what it was like being a gifted kid in a public school. With that being said, have a damn good day, everyone.